Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and now that all of the film has been watched and the grades are finalized, it's time to break down the 2019 NFL Draft prospect rankings. Before we dive into the prospect rankings video, let's take a look at how we go about grading these guys on film. For the skill positions, we take a look at a prospect's best and worst games statistically and the best matchup before we finalize his film grade. And from there, the player is assigned a grade on a 100-point scale. We don't believe in the term backup per se. If you're in the NFL, you're one of the best players at your position, so we consider you a starter in waiting, or at least that's how I would look at it if I'm a GM or a head coach. So without further ado, let's dive into the video with our number one graded prospect at the position. Arizona State's N'Keal Harry gets the top spot this year as our number one flanker prospect in this year's draft class. What I loved about his film was how great of a broken field runner he was. It's rare to see a big receiver like Harry be able to weave in and out of traffic like a New York cab like he does out there on the football field. He also returned punts, another rare thing for such a taller, bigger player. Brought one back to the house as well, while averaging 16.9 yards a return. I think he could use a bit more polish in his route running moving forward, but overall, Harry has the hands, the elusiveness, and the game-breaking ability to make him a premier option in this class. He reminds me a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers wideout Juju Smith-Schuster. Looking at the rest of the top 10, and it's a very physical group in my opinion. I love the level of physicality you see from players like Stanley Morgan Jr. of Nebraska, who's been that way since his high school days back at St. Augustine High School in New Orleans. Both Brody Oliver and Gary Jennings go up and attack the ball with aggressiveness while also having the smoothness to slip past defenders down the seam to get deep down the field and make the reception. Oliver reminds me a lot of Brandon Marshall. Marquise Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Penny Hart bring the level of explosiveness to the position, and Brown now has that foot injury that he'll be dealing with this offseason, but should be ready for camp. Hart's tape was an eye-opening one for me because you stereotypically wanted to put him in a slot, but you saw him be consistent in all areas of receiver play to warrant him being on the outside as a pro. And I'm a big fan of Deontay Johnson's game out of Toledo, who's an explosive receiver that doesn't mind sacrificing himself for the catch. Nahari Crawford out of Duquesne plays the same mentality of another Pittsburgh guy in Antonio Brown. He's confident on the field, he's explosive and tough, and doesn't mind going over the middle of the field to make those tough catches. What I really like about his game is how he doesn't shy away from the big moments. He steps up to the plate and makes those chains move each and every time. He has A+ acceleration that makes him a problem during his route and also after the catch. Jesper Horsted of Princeton also played on the baseball team for the Tigers, which explains his elite ability to track the football deep down the field. I've seen him live 3 times this year, was on a broadcast for the Monmouth game, and each time came away impressed with something different about his game. I also believe that he could play split or inside as a bigger slot receiver. He's a very good athlete that has great spatial awareness for the position. I think he's going to be a fantastic pro. Moving on to prospects 11 through 20, and Riley Ridley of Georgia is one of the more highly talked about prospects amongst folks this year. I think he can be a core special teamer right off the bat as a rookie. Jalen Austin of TCU is one of the best athletes regardless of position in this draft class and had a ridiculous performance throughout the week at the Tropical Bowl this past January. He finds himself in the same boat as Ridley, great athlete that didn't have the great production that you look for in college, but you like the traits enough to find a way to make it work as a pro. Again, another core special teamer right from the jump. Don't sleep on players like Cortrell Simpson of Richmond and Damian Jean-Pierre out of Nichols. Both are run after the catch guys with great acceleration. Denzel Knight is a player of intrigue in my opinion that still has a ton of upside left in this game. It's actually through the roof, honestly. He's a 6'2", 220-pound former running back at Wagner that made the move to receiver this season for head coach Jason Hotaling's Seahawks squad and was impressive in doing so as a leading receiver actually on the team. He's an explosive athlete that turns into a running back once he gets that football in his hands. He has excellent speed, which helps him be a top-notch returner as well. I thought his hands were solid in all areas of the field. With this obviously being his first season as a receiver, developing the nuance within his route running and ability to read coverages on the fly will be areas in which he can grow into moving forward, but he's definitely a prospect that'll be on the rise throughout the pro day circuit. I was also impressed with Charles Holland out of Tiffin. I like his elusiveness after the catch, almost like a Division II version of N'Keal Harry of Arizona State. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, and was a highly productive player for the Dragons, their #1 option in the passing game. He's a solid athlete that's a lot like Denzel Knight once he gets that football in his hands. A very good run after the catch guy that does a great job in finding his way on the opposite side of the defense into the end zone. As we look at prospects 21 through 30, Ventel Bryant of Temple and Tyron Johnson of Oklahoma State are your long, angular wideouts that have great closing speed on the ball deep down the field. Ashton Doolan of Malone and Alexander Hollins of Eastern Illinois are a couple of small college guys that have split-end growth opportunities, in my opinion, as does Trinity Benson of East Central, who showed impressive polish in his route running down there at the College Gridiron Showcase this past January. Andre Lindsey of Sacramento State was the other top Big Sky receiver entering this season, as Keelan Dawes of UC Davis, rightfully so, garnered all of the headlines. Lindsey dealt with an injury this year that virtually zapped his entire senior season, but his junior season he averaged over 30 yards a catch, scoring 7 touchdowns for the Hornets. He's got the athleticism and the ball skills to be a very good deep threat at the NFL level. Rounding out our flanker rankings with prospects 31 through 36, DJ Fuller, Terry White, and Kendrick Murphy out of Arizona Christian are cut from the same cloth. Good luck catching those guys if they get a step ahead of you. All 3 guys showed the ability to get to their top speed quickly and maintain that throughout the course of a play and separate from coverage. Prince Gray of Jacksonville was excellent in a run-heavy offense for the Dolphins and made the most of his opportunities at both the FCS Bowl and the Tropical Bowl All-Star games this past January. He's got all of the ability to play inside as a slot receiver as well, and immediately helps you out in the return game as either a kickoff or punt returner. He's got a lot of Josh Huff in his game, in my opinion, that should continue to blossom as a pro. So that's a wrap here from the Football Game Plan Studios. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast. We can find our Scout Team podcast, which has a lot of 2019 NFL Draft prospect interviews. And also be sure to subscribe on YouTube to the Football Game Plan Network, located at youtube.com/footballgameplan.